Good morning, St. Lucia, for those of you who are here, who are at home, and for those of you abroad and the wider world. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. We are coming to you live on this Monday morning studios of the Government Information Service. I am Melissa Joseph alongside Homer DeMark. On this, it is August 30, and we have been, for the last 2 weeks or so, going the Vive la Wars, exactly. And I think we came in quite eruptive this morning.
I can tell, Lisa, that you didn't even try to sneak in a little bit of La Marguerite in there, which is nice.
No. I just figured it is the day. Let us just have it. La Wars, you can have it, and I won't try to interfere.
Quite commendable. Yes, it is Monday, and we have to thank all of you for tuning in to the morning update, the morning brew right here at the Government Information Service. Those of you viewing on channel 122, as well as those of you viewing on our Facebook and YouTube pages. Lisa, updates.
Yeah, it was quite a roller coaster of a weekend. We know that COVID-19, we are into our fourth wave, and so we saw some very high numbers on the weekend coming out of testing and cases. We had 151, and then we had 181, and coming in Sunday, the Ministry of Health confirmed 61 cases out of a sample batch of 296. And Sunday, our numbers are still very high. Despite this, we had 1,970 active cases in country. And yes, and so it tells us that we need to continue to practice what those protocols are. We do not want to be in a situation where already our healthcare professionals are stretched and stressed. We do not want to get into a situation where we are overwhelmed within the healthcare system. So the onus is now on all of us to be able to play our parts, practice that personal responsibility, and ensure that we are following what those protocols are. And then for the weekend, we had adjusted protocols, the curfews adjusted. And Homer, one of the sectors affected at this time greatly is the minibus sector. And we know it's mass transportation, public transportation. And so you have people who are interacting with each other on every minute of the day that is within the public transportation system.
Right.
And so last week we had a conversation with members of the National Council on Public Transportation, and we have the Vice President back with us again for this Monday. But before we get to him, just wanted to call doom and gloom. We shall be celebrating the La Wars, the beautiful Rose. We'll celebrate her. And we do have a special feature that was developed by the Cultural Development Foundation, sharing that with you a little later. On COVID-19, everything is now going to the virtual platform.
Yes.
And so we'll be sharing a special production with you shortly. But we want to say good morning to Mr. Frederick, who is the Vice President of the National Council on Transportation. Good morning.
Good morning.
Last time you were here, you had informed us that you had 5 of your members who were tested COVID-19, and we had something like 4 routes affected. That wasn't. We had a conversation the following Friday via telephone. We followed up. I followed up with him, and he said, well, the numbers have increased, and we had 11 routes by that Friday. So give us an update, Kentry, right now in terms of the number of members who have now tested positive.
Good morning, Lisa. Good morning, St. Lucia. Good morning to all the studio members. Actually, I I'm feeling a bit bad this morning because I don't have my Lawas t-shirt.
You don't have your Lawas. Is that a Margaret happening there with the violet?
La Margaret? Absolutely not. I think I probably got washed in the rain. So hopefully by the time I'm dry, I should be back.
Yes, we'll be able to see that.
Actually, it's my niece's birthday, so I have to make sure.
Happy birthday to her.
I checked with Tamia, a happy little kid. Yes, but notwithstanding to everybody, morning to St. Lucia. Yes, we did have a conflict. We were here last week, and also that was on Thursday. However, the situation changed, not on the positive side, by Thursday afternoon into Friday morning. The COVID command center, we had long discussions, and also the pulse of the CMO and her staff throughout. So what we intend to do this morning is to just have a little overview, because I know time does not always permit us to do so. So today we intend to just be frank about what it is, nothing that anybody should in any panic mode. But as I said to Timothy Poleo and some other persons, it is better we give the right information so persons can work within things sorted out.
Okay. So where are the numbers at, Kent, for your members?
Lisa, from Thursday when we were here, we were at 4, 2 critical, 1 deceased, which was very bad. The loss of 1 minibus operator is just too many. However, the situation deteriorated on Thursday into Friday. And from going into the weekend, we had 16 operators who were already positive for that COVID virus. What we noted going into the weekend and into this morning, the situation have gotten a bit worse in that we now have 13 routes, that is throughout St. Lucia, that are infected. We still have 2 in critical, and we are trying to make the best out of the situation, hence the reason the discussion with the COVID Command Center Friday into Saturday, looking at reducing the number of persons on the public service vehicle. What we need to say to St. Lucians, we from the National Council on Public Transportation, we are not saying that the minibus drivers are the one spreading the virus. That is not the message. The issue here is the number of persons on a public service vehicle at this time. So
we know that the numbers currently, given the adjusted protocols, they're at
yes.
10. Is that what we're speaking about? So, you looking to decrease it from 10, or it was from the original 14 passengers down to 10? From the
free row per seat on Thursday, because of the state of the numbers that had gone up. It's necessary to make the adjustment. However, we do understand with the association the information did not get out there as quickly as possible, so that is understandable. But going into tomorrow and the days to follow, the maximum load per vehicle is 10 persons, 10. The reason for that is to forget about the financial implications, but look at the health point of view. So it's not worth trying to squeeze into a bus to get where you need to go, and then it makes you your health or your life. I know over the weekend we were faced with many challenges in that some drivers want to cooperate, but then members of the public are not cooperating. And that the driver will say, I have 10, I cannot take anymore, and then you find 2 or 3 persons come on board.
Right.
Even at that stage, the driver would not have confrontation to put persons off. So we are of the public, because most of the drivers want to do what is right. Nobody wants a ticket of $250 or $500, what it may be, but to provide the service service with the constraints that we have now. Because prior to Thursday, the minibus operators were just scraping, not profit. They were providing the necessary service. However, worse today because they have to work at 10, which is just about fuel money. So we are looking at that, and we're going to speak into information we have. We will put it out, except the names of the route affected and the names of the individual. We learned from last year, and it was a bitter pill to swallow. So we are not going there because, like every other place, if maybe a bank or a business place is shut down for deep cleaning, that's all you know. So our buses are doing the same, going in the same format, but we leave names of the route and we leave the names of the individuals out.
Okay, but
Yes.
in terms of safety and ensuring that passengers are taking the necessary steps, we know that seeing the numbers is one thing, which is positive in terms of trying to limit the amount of contact. But in addition to sanitization, is that also within the transportation sector?
Yes, we do, but as anything else, we have our challenges. And hence the reason why last week when we spoke about corporate citizens and also any individual towards the route association with the community or on a broader level, feel free to contact us. And I must say we've had 3 business places in St. Lucia. They have reached out and are willing to make donations in that regard. We also say to the normal citizens of St. Lucia, when I say normal, I mean St. Lucians in general, if you want to donate a bottle of hand sanitizer, a packet of masks to the NCOPT to distribute to your specific route, you can do so, and also do it directly through association. What we just want to make sure is that we get the help at this time for our operators. So the prime need for us is in terms of adhering to the protocols and likewise getting the assistance in terms of the PPEs, not necessarily money from individuals, because a lot of times you may hear persons say bus operators are all about money. So we're not asking for help in terms of money from people. We're saying if you can contribute a packet of masks, hand sanitizers, whatever it is, feel free to do so. You can call our office. If you cannot deliver it, once we know where you have a responsible person to pick it up and then to distribute it among the drivers within your route or within the general body. But at this time, what we're looking at is to provide the service, but also to do it in a manner that our operators and the general within a safe zone.
And Inspector Frederick, I understand your justification for not necessarily revealing the driver's name and the routes, but in terms of contact tracing within those routes, how exactly does that work?
The Ministry of Health is doing a fine job, I must say a fine job, in that they interview most of the individuals. And the level of cooperation is very forthcoming, and so far it's working well. The discussion with the CMO on Friday morning, we did request a help in terms of her staff for the education drive, and she did not hesitate. So when I leave here, I should be meeting with, I forget her name, I think Natasha, something of that sort, right? I should be meeting with her so we can do public education drive. So the staff from the Ministry of Health will be able to small gatherings, not outside of the scope, but in terms of going on the bus stand in an isolated area so that they can speak and need to do. The requests we're getting from a lot of association and members of the public is one that I wanted to take some time this morning to explain. Whereas vaccination is your choice, but we believe that testing, especially on a route or affected by the virus, testing should be mandatory. So we are looking at that today. We are looking at discussing it with those association executives, because there are some persons who tell you, I just have a little draft, I just have a little cold. But understand, if I am working with you year-round, I would know if you are not yourself. And I must say thanks to a gentleman in the salon. He called me on Saturday and he said, look, you know how minibus operators normally speak. When they were so I laughed and I said, what happened? You had an accident? He said, no. Just some fuel to cut grass because Saturday is my day off. And in pouring the grass into the weed eater, he realized he's not smelling the fuel. Right. So right away he realized something was wrong. But he is fully vaccinated and he doesn't have anything. However, somebody who is close to him was hospitalized.
Okay.
So you see this.
So he's taking his personal responsibility.
He took his personal responsibility to get vaccinated. He did not feel anything and he the Friday. The Saturday he's about to cut the grass. I mean, if you cannot smell fuel, you know something is wrong.
Right.
You know? But being a responsible person as he is, he said, look, my bus will remain there for the next 10 days. I understand what it is. And to make it a member of my family is down. So we're looking at that kind of behavior, positive behavior, because the money has no value if you're sick. And that is what we want persons to understand at this time. Give the value for money, give the service, but at the same time understand it comes at a cost. It could be your health or something else. Yes.
And in addition to that, what I could also see working for the public transportation sector is possibly encouraging your members and passengers to download the contact tracing app. And that may assist with contact tracing efforts within the sector as well. Yeah,
so we're looking at that, but the reality of operating a minibus, I don't like using the word driver, because it might surprise you that minibus operators are some of the greatest mathematicians we have. Yes, they are. So you have 14 or 15 persons who board your bus. For example, if you're coming from the Morn is a one route, a straight Beaufort, which is the route 2H, Beaufort to Castries. And you have persons stopping from Poile, and without a calculator, that bus operator work the fare, give you your correct change, and the next person.
Very true.
At the back of his mind, he can remember if you boarded in Beaufort or Opico. Very seldom he may ask you where you came on board. So which means they are smart.
In that they are able to remember.
They are able to very smart people. You might be surprised that we have minibus operators who went to secondary school, tertiary education, and they just decide this is what they want to do. So we want the public perception of minibus operators to change, because like you may have a supermarket, you may have any other business. Minibus operators are normal, hard-working people. So if you may want to ask, I know that your next question was, what is my greatest interest in this whole thing?
That's my questions.
Well, I was thinking this morning. It's okay to smile, Lisa. I know. Right. The loss of one minibus operator is difficult for me. What I also understand, the National Transportation at this time see or manage the affairs at that particular level of 1,410 grown men and women. Okay. Now, these grown men and women, they have families, and based on what we do, depend on how they survive. So my interest is not the false information or the rumors, but to ensure that the operators get a proper education in terms of what is happening out there. Just imagine if we had tuberculosis mixed with this one.
COVID-19.
The Prime Minister or whoever Minister of Health would not have to shut the country. People would not leave. If you have a connection of the COVID and tuberculosis mix, people will not go to the supermarket. Everybody may turn vegetarian or kill your goat in your backyard, this kind of thing. So while it is not there and we wish it will never get there, we're saying to people, when you board in the minibus, be considerate to the operator. Understand if he says 10, he have a family to protect whilst trying to earn a livelihood, you know. So we give in a fair share, we give the service for your money, but at the same time, we want your respect that we are provided.
How do you enforce that? Because when I appreciate that a number of your operators will follow what the guidelines are, but what about those who will choose not to do so? Because we have the situations where operators are, you know, in the past, that they would put more than 10 people, carry more than 10 passengers. So we enforce that all operators follow the protocol.
Lisa, this is a time where, as a council member said to me this morning, it's crunch time. It's crunch time. You cannot value your life, your health, for $1.75 to $55, even if it's $100 more. And every of the 1,410 minibus operators island-wide, if you put the trouble, it is less than 50. And here's the reason why Monday before we wrote the letter to the association, and that the owners, the executive, and other persons take a personal responsibility to police that. The state that we're in right now, there we've had discussion with the police to ensure that they assist in that regard. So if it means that the individual have to be charged, let it be. If it means that they have to be put off the vehicle, let it be, because you cannot risk your country for a few dollars. We understand we all need the dollar. COVID had impacted my life financially, but I have to understand it's no fault of mine. So what we are doing in terms of enforcement, Lisa, is to ensure that we remind the associative that this is what it is. There's no if or but or your opinion or my opinion. Because I don't in the position of the CMO and her staff. These people work around the clock and they work really, really hard. Whatever errors we had last year or in the beginning of COVID or in the beginning of this year or to last month, we are fine-tuning it to ensure that everybody go according to what should be. We have extracted the political atmosphere from it, we have extracted the personal atmosphere from it, and we're saying this is the reality, what we are dealing with. So you may very well hear persons complaining that the police have either charged or put the excess persons off. You may very hear that the minibus operator refused to leave the stand if somebody is not getting off. They reserve the right to do that. So if you're on the bus stand and you have 10 and 2 others come and they don't want to leave, you leave the bus right.
That can make what? You can have that minibus operator dealt with. I want to say that very loosely. I want to say that very loosely,
yes.
Very loosely. That you can have.
But it should be non-personal if you and the operator have some personal issues.
Yes.
That has nothing to do with minibus.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are neighbors and you have a dispute between a cow eating your driver's breadfruit tree 20 years ago.
No, strictly
minibus,
if the
COVID
operator
protocol
is flouting the protocol, and there's a risk that you can make that report.
Yes.
I want to talk about, because last you were here, we were discussing the affected buses being taken off route. Now that we have in upwards of what, 13
routes,
13 routes affected, yes. And we have 32 routes on island, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so 13 of those being affected with COVID-19 offers. So these affected buses, what has become of them? Have they been hauled into a particular area for deep cleaning, and will they remain there? Talk to us about what's happening.
Okay, what we are doing at them, after we left here on 2 other persons who provide the service of deep cleaning, those persons have reached out and made themselves available. So what we would do today, because it was a long way into, is to find out the exact location, look at the facility, what they're providing, make sure that it met what we require, and then we can direct persons, because we're not saying you have to go to X, Y, or Z. But then if, for example, area and there is some providing that service, then we would tell you, okay, this person is from Denry or the other person is what, so the option is optional. However, the procedure must be carried.
Now, this is only for affected buses, or are you now saying to your members that at the end of every day or point during the day or during a week on a weekly basis to get their buses sanitized or deep cleaned?
Okay, why I ask for the help from St. Lucia and even individuals. At the end of every trip, most of the drivers use a sprayer down, but I don't believe it's enough. So what we have to look at now, most routes, in fact all routes at this time have a rotation day. So which means if you work on the Monday, you're off on the Tuesday. So what we are looking at, probably the Tuesday, that all the buses that are off, at least once a week or fortnight, to do some deep steam cleaning. I know there are some agencies that provide the fogging, so they deep steam clean, and then they fog the vehicle and you shut it for a little bit, and then you open it out, and then it comes back all brand new. We made reference to some of the seats or inside the buses that have never been cleaned never been thoroughly cleaned from the time of purchase. We have to look at the help from the dispatcher, which is agents of transport. So some of these buses, if the inside does not really meet what is, you will be required to unclean the bus. So we're looking at instituting where you can look at your cleaning maintenance as we go through this pandemic. Yes.
I want to ask you something on the finance of things. I've always thought that the minibus or the council, it has the ability to be powerful negotiator. I think that it has the capacity to be able to do many things to its members, to provide great stability to its members. What sort of conversation have you been having with, say, the National Council Insurance, for example? Because I know your members have been very disappointed. They've been irked by this, that despite COVID, they still have to pay the insurance as normal. And I do believe that at some point last year, the council did indicate that it would try to have some conversations with some of these partners. Have you been able to get very far with those conversations and, in terms of bringing some reprieve to your members?
Yes, we have, Lisa. We have had discussions with two major banks in St. Lucia, financial institutions, if I may put it that way, in St. Lucia. We're looking at in some of those loans, give a different interest rate, so the monthly reduce it. But the issue we are having is that some operators believe, I want business, or Mr. Godfrey Ferdinand or the executive council also know the business. It has nothing to do with me, or him or the executive council. If you are paying $1,000 a month, and then the financial institution is reaching out to you, I think in that regard, if your interest is 10% and they may bring it down to 4%, 8%, you should have a personal responsibility to give the information to benefit, because there are times they don't make the monthly pay. In terms of NIC, we have had broad discussions with NIC. And the doors of NIC, or the windows of NIC, if I may say, the yard of NIC was open to all operators. To make it very simple, you walk into NIC with your minibus information and you can actually pay your monthly NIC fee. So you prepare for the rough days. There are operators at present that every month they go to pay the NIC $50, $60, $100, whatever it is. But some believe that the National Council on Public Transportation has millions. So they don't do anything in terms of their personal interests, but expect the Office of Counsel to dish out money. When it comes to money from government by NCOPT on behalf of the The members do their maths very neatly, and most times what you find, the speculation, the word that goes out, the information is not correct. Because if the government of St. Lucia gives $2.5 million, I'm just putting it like this, for example, the $2.5 million does not belong to NCOPT. You divide by what you have to divide and you pay out, and there's accountability for it. But in the minds of a lot of people, NCOPT just got $2.5 million. That's not the case. There is the monthly operating cost of NCOPT, which we have to meet. Because if not, our office would be in your parking yard, in your parking lot. Likewise, as you mentioned, during the beginning of COVID, many route associations reach out to their members that the monthly fee, which would be $20, in some instances were waived. So you find to renew your permit would be $480 plus the $700. The government of St. Lucia kept it in that they waived the renewal $100. Most route association reduced from the 80 to 80 or 300 respectively. So they were moved by the associations and NCOPT to ensure. And even when some route association, I will not mention the name again, did not have enough money to renew or to do the transaction at NCOPT, we got into some kind of understanding. Okay, we do the process, we go with your stamp and everything, and you will pay CAN. So there is this kind of financial assistance because we do understand the money is tight. And with the reduction in the number of passengers, it's even worse. So we are doing the financial thing, we are assisting the best that we can, considering the constraints that we now have.
And I want to thank you so much for taking the time off and coming. I know you said very busy morning for you. It's going to be a busy education, health education. You mentioned a meeting with Miss Natasha Lloyd Felix there, who's heading the Bureau of Education.
Yes.
So I want to say thank you so much for sharing that information with us. Just to recap for you, now seen the vicinity of 13 routes being affected and more than 30 of the minibus operators being tested positive for COVID-19. And so the message is to treat every route as if affected, because I know everybody's concerned about naming those routes because they want to feel safe. I need to know if it is my route, that you should treat every single route as if it were an affected route. And so that means following the protocols to the letter. Tell us again, we don't want people talking too much while they're on the bus, unnecessarily, correct?
Correct. Reduce the talking. If you haven't seen me for a while, send me a BB or WhatsApp and email something. Okay, I'm going to go over the phone. We know that the political atmosphere is simmering down, so we can leave that for next week. However, ensure that when you are boarding a bus, ensure the bus does not have more than the 10 passengers. Because you're not just putting your life at risk, you're putting the life of our drivers at risk. Second to that, ensure that your hands are sanitized. When you give money, when you receive it, do a little sanitizing yourself. The reduced number is 10, the sanitization of both passenger and driver, the reduced talking, and I think, well, we should be within a safe zone. If we
keeping that mask,
keeping the mask on
and
yes.
making. But you also talked about testing.
The testing, I believe later today, with the discussion with Ministry of Health, we will look at the mandatory testing. Probably the Viewport, I know the Viewport Health Center, and you also have other areas which we will pass out to different associations. So we are doing the best that we can, and we are hoping that the public understand we are safeguarding ourselves from this. Once again, we want to take the opportunity to thank GIS and many media houses. We could not have done it without you. I think the relationship that we have developed between Radio Caribbean, you name it, GIS and all of that, is a good one, where they can just call us in, have a site. They come, Timothy Polio, you name them. So we want to keep that going, because the journalists are the ones giving out the information and we are getting it for free. So if things are really tight financially, I think we have to say finance to the media houses and also the government, the people of St. Lucia, the minibus operators, because all in one mess, necessary by us. But we have to try to get out of it based on what is prescribed at this present time. And I believe if everybody look at this, and hopefully by the end of the year, we will go back down to normalcy.
Very
so
true.
That is me.
I do agree. That is a matter of us working together and each person doing their part to ensure that, of course, our numbers decrease and we're back at a point where that is somewhat manageable, and hopefully that we could get over this pandemic. But Inspector Frederick, I have to thank you so much for taking the time to come out and giving us this update. We know that you have quite a busy day, so we're wishing you the very best for the event. And of course, you need to ensure that you stay with us, because when we return, more updates and a little flowers on the other side of the week. Stay with us.
Thank you.
In an effort to ensure patient and first responder safety, the St. Lucia Fire Service has reviewed its patient transfer procedures, especially for patients with respiratory distress. Face masks will be provided. At no time during transportation should the face mask be removed. Please be patient and cooperative during this time to ensure you receive the best possible care while keeping our first responders safe.
She told me that mouth rinsing is very important for healthy teeth. How so? Rinsing with water gets rid of food in your teeth, which can protect you from getting cavities. No, wait. So after I eat or drink anything, it's a good idea to rinse out my mouth with water. Yes. Make sure to spit out the water after rinsing, because swallowing will only bring germs into your teeth. Remember, what easy and cost-effective way to instantly boost your health and a healthy body, fight any diseases, including COVID-19.
That's on this morning. Yeah, we came all decked out, and as we promised, and we've been saying it for the last 2 weeks, August 30th is the day for the Rose, and the Cultural Development Foundation, in terms of being able to go out in the community, enjoy all of these community activities, the seances, and so the Cultural Development Foundation put together a wonderful production. We've heard some performances and so forth. So let's go to that video and that.
premier flower festivals in St. Lucia, Lawas and La Marguerite are important cultural events on the island's calendar. The Lawas Festival, held every August, is celebrated on the feast of the patron saint, St. Rose de Lima. The La Marguerite Flower Festival, held every October, is celebrated on the feast of the patron saint, St. Marguerite Mary Apuk. The origins of the festivals are still subject to conjecture.
There's no definitive conclusion on how each of them actually started, but in terms of a general story, it is the general story of the development of Creole culture, or where the coming together of cultures. The foundation, of course, is the Africa, which has been the majority culture, majority people, the engine of cultural creation in this part. But Creole culture, just like the language, just like a lot of the Creole practices that we do, it actually represents the coming together of different cultural backgrounds and traditions. In respect to the meaning of the festival, a lot of it, the discussion and dialogue was around what makes us really St. Lucian. And in trying to answer these questions, the La Rose and the La Marguerite, the very uniqueness of these festivals to St. Lucia made them very high in terms of trying to define what a St. Lucian is. And so in terms of the St. Lucian identity and our Caribbean identity, there was a lot going for it and for the preservation of it. When you look at societies in their full regalia, or the dress and so on, you see the mimic of the European court, and you will see characters that we may not have had in our history, but it's like a mimic here. So you'll see kings, you'll see queens, you'll see princesses, things, but you also see other people of position in the state. You will see magistrates, you will see presidents, you will see nurses, you will see doctors, you will see soldiers, all different types, and these actually have roles in the society. The La Rose and the La Marguerite Society have their own music, and it's a vibrant music tradition. I say vibrant because it's constantly reinventing itself. A lot of those folk music traditions, songs are composed virtually on a daily basis based on things that happen in the society, in the almost anything. It's a form of recording developments in the society, as well as providing music for entertainment, relaxation, enjoyment, fun of the society. And in that respect, the Chantwell, who is the lead singer, or chanteur, as in the male, becomes very, very important. They're usually the composer and singer but they lead the singing.
The Lawas and La Marguerite festivals emanate from two different singing societies, and as such are in constant rivalry. This is demonstrated in both song and dance.
A lot of the compositions are sung in derision of the other, or in glorification or raising up of your own. Okay, so you have a lot of songs over the years that call Wadlow, or call the Marguerite's Buick, or call the La Rose. They don't know where they're going, they don't have no direction, throwing words at each other, all in fun, all in derision. There are times in history where it has gotten pretty serious, the rivalry, etc. The force of circumstances now is minimizing the importance of the rivalry between them, because a lot of the original people are passing on, and you will find now that some of the people who are celebrating in the La Rose will again come out and celebrate in the Marguerite.
Over the years, the two flower festivals have experienced several challenges. Despite the odds, both have grown in stature and composition. The flower societies are committed to managing such challenges and growing the level of participation.
Some of the things that came out, especially caused a lot of concern, is things like the loss of the musicians, and some of the iconic people that have kept alive the traditions. They have gone on in age, and in the last 2 or 3 years, we have lost quite a bit of some of these, quite a few of some of the leaders in the society, and particularly in the area of music. And at the community level, what we are seeing is we are not seeing young people coming up and taking up the tradition, the folk tradition of playing some of these instruments. In the area of music, there are lots of recommendations in relation to the School of Music, in relation to what happens in schools, but also in relation to just the community, initiatives in the community to get young people to understudy and to work with some of the older musicians and to create an interest in it at that level. A lot of the summer programs that are being organized for the community, it may not be directly in touch with the formal school, but these are still formal education processes that can this is an avenue for getting the youth involved in our celebrations, and particularly, well, the Cultural Development Foundation has a long-standing tradition of summer education in the arts.
As an educator, I would ask that even before school closes, that measures are put into place to get the children, especially since La Wars is celebrated near the opening of school. I think that we can get the children to come together and celebrate this occasion and have a grand finale of what our vacation is like. So when we go back to school, the children are going back to school not tired, but pepped up because they've just been enjoying part of their culture. And I think that is going to make a great impact on them.
A major concern is the dwindling number of adult community groups participating in the La Marguerite Flower Festival. However, the reverse is true for the La Wars Flower Festival, where school participation has decreased. There are several approaches being adopted to attract more participation in these festivals.
One of this is in the area of PR, public relations, letting people know or be more aware that the awareness is going on. And some of that we are already impacting. I don't know if you have realized, Radio St. Lucia on Saturdays right now, we have a Laros program where we're bringing some of the Laros groups into the station. They go on. We're trying to get some of the announcers a lot more aware, and in terms of the choice of music they play, to all include the Laros and things in it. And there was a look at the actual presentation on the day, the stage presentation. Put a lot more into the production of the event, you know, as we do for some of the huge events, make them a lot more professional, you know, and inviting to audience and make it a lot more understandable to people that coming.
I think culture is very much alive. Some people say that the culture is dying, but not for 1 minute have I seen any reason to doubt that culture is very much alive. When we look around, we see young children, we see teenagers, we see older people, and they're all very fully involved in the culture. So I believe that there is hope, and all we have to do is to continue encouraging the young people, the little children, and bring them up to love their culture.
Once we continue to make it attractive to young people, then Laros will live on for a number of years to come. But attracting young people means that you have to make the requisite resources available. It has to be more than just a celebration on the 30th of August. We have to ensure that the groups have the support that we see other entities have to perpetuate whatever in society that they do.
A positive trend has emerged with the increasing participation of youth in these cultural events. Having said that, there is also a move towards obtaining greater involvement by all groups of people.
What I have seen is that the adult group, they have diminished over the years, and the school groups have made tremendous strides. When we started that in the 90s, the first school, Carmen, Rene, and so on, we never anticipated what is happening here today. But it has happened and we are very pleased about it. It gives us hope. It says to me that the future for the Flower Festival, especially the Margaret, is safe with us here in St. Lucia, by the way the young people are participating and showing their interest in it.
To me, children my age group should be involved in things like this. These are things that people before us did, our parents, our grandparents. If we discontinue doing them, then that's a loss of culture. Our culture is who we are. If we don't know our culture, we don't know ourselves, then what can we become?
There needs to be a lot more injection of more efficient management practices of the groups as organizations and as sustainable organizations at the community level. There need to be a lot more contribution of community development organizations to some of these groups, because they carry a lot of the identity of the community, a lot of the meaning of the community, a lot of the strength of the community. And from a community level, not just a national level, from a community level, organizations have to get a lot more involved and supportive of the people that carry these traditions.
All right, and so we will just enjoy in there the performance and that ending piece from the Granivier Lawals group. Homa?
Yes, Lisa, and that is our celebration. So hopefully we see more people. And remember that you can celebrate as well, not necessarily through, activity, but ensure that you're decked out. You can celebrate in your own way. Of course, in terms of what's happening, just a few, you can get vaccinated if you do wish to do so. You can get vaccinated at the Soufriere Hospital today as well as the VG Complex. That's vaccination sites going on today. We're going to do a little more about that as we return for just general updates, seeing what's going on with the weather and the sort. But stay with us. This is the Morning Update, the Morning Brew, right here on the Government Information Service National Vision Network.
What's in the food you're eating? Do you really even know? All the chemicals and hormones used to accelerate their growth. All the artificial flavoring, sweeteners and colors too. We consume and we don't spare a thought for the damage that they'll do. No, think about the children. Think about the children. How will we save them? Chemicals and GMOs are not the solution. Use organic and join revolution.
Excessive agrochemical use, additives and genetically modified foods are harmful to health and the environment. Join the good food revolution. Grow, buy and consume organic. A message from Rise St. Lucia and the Ministry of Sustainable Development with funding from EF Small Grants Program UNDP.
The good food revolution.
Welcome back, the Morning Brew, right here on the National Television Network. As up, we do. From Consumer Affairs, there was a report just indicating a little bit about control prices. So we can go to that and ensure that we give you a little bit of that information.
The Consumer Affairs Department, or CAD, is responding to concerns over the retail prices of controlled goods. The department recommends that retailers and wholesalers should use the correct outlets when purchasing to resell to consumers.
For example, if you own a small retail shop, you need to ensure that you purchase from a wholesaler or distributor. Shop owners need to be mindful that there are businesses who sell in bulk, but they do not engage in wholesaling. Buying in bulk and not at a wholesale price may affect the retail price of a product.
The Consumer Affairs Department is the government agency responsible for approving and monitoring the prices of controlled goods. Ms. Williams-Davy emphasizes that these prices are not to be altered.
The department reminds businesses that in accordance with the Distribution and Price of Goods Act, Cap 1309, that it is an offense to sell any price control good above the price approved by the department. If anyone, whether it be a consumer or supplier of goods, is uncertain about the selling price of a controlled good, that person is encouraged to seek assistance from the department by calling 468-4224/31. Suppliers of price control goods are reminded that all prices must be properly displayed and goods are not sold above the approved prices.
The CAD also informs that it is possible for the price control goods and price control goods to fluctuate. These prices are influenced by the price purchased from the overseas supplier, the freight, insurance, duties paid, and the various markups added to the landed costs. Nonetheless, the department reassures the general public that they are committed to the rights of consumers and safeguarding their interests. Marvin Sidney, reporting from the Ministry of Commerce, Manufacturing, Business Development, Cooperatives, and Consumer Affairs.
All right, and that is coming from the Consumer Affairs Unit. And as you heard there, if you do have any inquiries, you can give them a call at 468-4224. That is 468-4224. And to wrap up the Morning Brew this morning, let me just ensure that I remind you, or rather inform you, of what the weather is expected to be like today. So in terms of the weather, we are expecting fair to partly cloudy skies with a few scattered showers and a chance of afternoon thunderstorms. So per usual, you have your umbrellas in your bag or your rain protective equipment in your bag to ensure that you're keeping yourself protected from the weather. Seas today are expected to be 2 to 4 feet, or 1.6 to 1.2 meters today. I'm looking at the tropical weather outlook. We see weak unstable conditions over the Eastern Caribbean region. That is expected to cause a few scattered showers and possibly after storms over the islands today. So you can look out for that. At 5 a.m. today, Tropical Depression 10 was located near latitude 0.8 north and longitude 50.6 degrees west, or about 775 miles east of the Windward Islands. Depression continues to move northward and is expected to remain over the open Atlantic. Tropical Depression 10 does not pose any threat to the eastern region. We see two tropical waves located over the central eastern tropical Atlantic. They're moving westward near 17 miles per hour or 28 kilometers per hour. And a third tropical wave is expected to emerge off the west coast of the Africa tonight. This system has a high or 80% chance of tropical cyclone formation during the next 5 days. So we're going to be keeping our eyes on that. And just to wrap up, to remind you very, very quickly of the vaccination sites for today. So if you are intending on getting vaccinated, the place that you can go today is the VG Complex as well as the Soufriere Hospital. If you cannot make it to any of those sites, you know that you can contact the Wellness Center nearest to you and make an appointment there, and look out for the mobile vaccination bus. This has been the Morning Brew right here on the National Television Network. I have to thank all of you who joined us today, whether you're viewing on channel 122 on our Facebook or you pages. Thank you so much for making us your morning choice. Of course, you can keep it locked on National Television Network as we bring you daily continued information throughout the day. I'm Humadi Mark, Morning Brew alongside Lisa Joseph. Thank you so much for joining us.